Welcome to part 17 of my review of Tasha's Cauldron of Everything and the second part of the magic item review. In the previous video, we covered all of the baseline magic items that range from common through legendary, but in this video, we're going to cover all of the new, even beyond legendary items, the artifacts. Before we jump into it, only a small percentage of you guys who watch my videos are actually subscribed, so if you are enjoying this review series, consider subscribing. It's free, you can always change your mind, and it helps me out a ton. So here is the artifact magic items section, and here is our first artifact. Let's just jump right into it. First off, we have Baba Yaga's Mortar and Pestle. It requires attunement. The creations of the immortal hag Baba Yaga defy the laws of mortal magic. Among the notorious implements of Cementor legend and countless worlds are the artifacts that propel her through the plains. Baba Yaga's Mortar and Pestle. These signature tools of Baba Yaga are a single artifact for the purposes of attunement. Should the two objects become separated, the pestle appears next to the mortar at the next dawn. Random properties. This follows the artifact section of the DMG, which has two minor beneficial properties, one major beneficial property, and one minor detrimental property. So consult the DMG if you want to see the full list of the benefits or detriments. We will not go over that here. First off, we have properties of the mortar. The mortar is a tiny wooden bowl. However, the mortar increases in size to accommodate anything you place inside, expanding if there is enough space, up to large size, meaning it can hold even a large creature. Properties of the pestle. The pestle is a 6-inch long worn wooden tool. Once during your turn while you are holding the pestle, you can extend it into a quarterstaff or shrink it back. No action required. As a quarterstaff, the pestle is a magic weapon that grants a +3 bonus to attack and damage rolls made with it. The pestle has 12 charges. When you hit with a melee attack using the pestle, you can expend up to 3 charges to deal an extra 1d8 force damage for each charge expended. The pestle regains all expended charges at dawn. So a very high amount of burst damage coming out from just the pestle of this. Let's keep going. We have perfect tools. While holding the mortar and pestle, you can use your action to say the name of any non-magical plant, mineral, or fluid and an amount of the material worth 10 GP or less. The mortar instantly fills with the desired amount of that material. Once you use this action, you cannot do so again until you finish a short or long rest. You can also use the artifact as an alchemist supplies, brewer supplies, cook's utensils, an herbalism kit, and a poisoner's kit. You have advantage on any check you make with the artifact as one of these tools. Very utilitarian just for this one segment. Next up, we have primal parts. As an action, while the pestle and mortar is within 5 feet of you, you can command the pestle to grind for the next minute until you use your action to verbally command it to stop. The pestle moves on its own, grinding the contents of the mortar into a mush or fine powder that's equally useful for cooking or alchemy. At the start of each of your turns, whatever is in the mortar takes 4d10 force damage. If this reduces the target to 0 hit points, the target is reduced to a powder, pulp, or paste as appropriate. Only magic items are unaffected. If you wish, when the pestle stops, you can have the mortar separate its contents, like powdered bone, crushed herbs, pulped organs, into separate piles. There are already some very twisted uses I can think of with this item, but let's continue. We have Traverse the Night. If you are holding the pestle while you are inside the mortar, you can use your action to verbally command the mortar to travel to a specific place or creature. You don't need to know where your destination is, but it must be a specific destination, not just the nearest river or a red dragon's lair. If the stated destination is within 1,000 miles of you, the mortar lifts into the air and vanishes. You and any creatures in the mortar travel through a dreamlike sky with hazy reflections of the world passing by below. Creatures might see images of you streaking through the sky between your point of origin and the destination. You arrive at the location 1 hour later, or if it's night, 1 minute later. So a very powerful teleport spell, a teleport spell that you do not need to have a teleportation circle inscribed anywhere to automatically get to, which is very nice. Next up, we have Bones Know Their Home. When you command the mortar to travel, you can instead throw out the dust or paste of something ground by the mortar and name a location on a different plane of existence or a different world on the material plane. If that material came from a creature native to the named plane or world, the mortar travels through an empty night sky to an unoccupied space at that destination, arriving in 1 minute. So with the right ingredients, you can also basically just planar shift somewhere. Very cool. Next up, we have Destroying the Mortar and Pestle. Finally, we have Destroying the Mortar and Pestle. The mortar and pestle are destroyed if they are crushed underfoot by the dancing hut of Baba Yaga or by Baba Yaga herself. They cannot be destroyed by any other means. Very interesting. A very powerful first artifact here. Has a crap ton of uses. It is a portable teleporter, plane shifter, quarterstaff with very high single target burst damage, and it is able to function as several different types of utensils or kits. A very strong showing initially, and here's what the mortar looks like with Baba Yaga inside. Next up, we have the Crook of Rao, another artifact requiring attunement. Ages ago, the serene god Rao created a tool to shield his fledgling faithful against the evils of the lower planes. Yet as eons passed, mortals developed their own methods of dealing with existential threats, and the Crook was largely forgotten. In the recent ages, though, the Crook of Rao was rediscovered and leveraged against the rising power of the Witch Queen Eggwill, one of the names of Tasha. Although she was defeated, Eggwill managed to damage the Crook during the battle, infecting it with an insidious curse and the potential for future victory. In the aftermath, the Crook was lost again. Occasionally it reappears, but the famed artifact is not what it was. Whether or not the artifact's bearers realize its full threat, few risk the Crook of Rao potentially for the final time. So just like the Baba Yaga's Mortar and Pestle, this comes with 2 minor beneficial properties, 1 major beneficial property, and 1 minor detrimental property. The Crook has 6 charges. While holding it, you can use an action to expend 1 or more charges to cast the following spells: Save DC 18, Aura of Life 2 charges, Aura of Purity 2 charges, Banishment 1 charge, Beacon of Hope 1 charge, or Mass Cure Wounds 3 charges. The Crook regains 1d6 expended daily charges at dawn. A very strong showing of spells in the initial list here. Next up, we have Absolute Banishment. While you are tuned to the Crook and holding it, you can spend 10 minutes to banish all but the mightiest fiends within 1 mile of you. Any fiend with a challenge rating of 19 or higher is unaffected. Each banished fiend is sent back to its home plane and can't return to the plane the Crook of Rao banished it from for 100 years. Failing Matrix. Whenever the Crook of Rao's absolute banishment property is used or when its last charge is expended, roll on the extraplanar reversal table. Any creatures conjured as a result of this effect appear in a random unoccupied space within 60 feet of you and are not under your control. Here are the effects. 1 to 25, a portal to a random plane opens. The portal closes after 5 minutes. 26 through 45, 2d4 imps and 2d4 quasits appear. Pretty easy to kill. Next up, 46 through 60, 1d8 succubi or incubi appear. 61 through 70, 1d10 barbed devils and 1d10 vrox appear. 71 through 80, 1 arcanoloth, 1 night hag, and 1 rakshasa appear, getting more deadly by the roll. At 81 through 85, 1 Ice Devil and 1 Marilith appear. 86 through 90, 1 Baylor and 1 Pit Fiend appear. At the DM's discretion, a portal opens into the presence of an Archdevil or Demon Lord instead, then closes after 5 minutes. Or 91 through 100, Eggwill's Curse, which is the property listed right here. When the Crook was last used against Eggwill, the Witch Queen lashed out at the artifact, infecting its magical matrix. Over the years, this curse has spread within the Crook, threatening to violently pervert its ancient magic. If this occurs, the Crook of Rao, as it's currently known, is destroyed, its magical matrix inverting and exploding into a 50-foot diameter portal. This portal functions as a permanent gate cast by Eggwill. The gate then, once per round on initiative count 20, automatically speaks a fiend's name in Eggwill's voice, doing so until the gate calls on every fiend ever banished by the Crook of Rao. If the fiend still exists, it is drawn through the gate. This process takes 18 years to complete, at the end of which the gate becomes a permanent portal to Pazunia, the first layer of the Abyss. This item is insanely campaign breaking. I want to automatically include this in my games. This sounds so insanely fun and chaotic. As for destroying the Crook, or repairing it, the Crook of Rao can either be destroyed or repaired by journeying to Mount Celestia and obtaining a tear from the eternally serene god Rao. One way to make the emotionless god cry would be to reunite Rao with the spirit of his first worshipper who sought revelations beyond the multiverse long ago. The Crook dissolves if immersed in the god's tear for a year and a day. If washed in the tear daily for 30 days, the Crook loses its failing matrix property. This item is absolutely insane. I think that this is going to go very well with something like possibly a Avernus campaign, but the possibilities of this are simply endless. Next up, we have the Demonomicon of Eggwill, another artifact requiring attunement, an expansive treatise documenting the Abyss's infinite layers and inhabitants. The Demonomicon of Eggwill is the most thorough and blasphemous tome of demonology in the multiverse. The tome recounts both the oldest and most current profanities of the Abyss and demons. Demons have attempted to censor the text, and while sections have been ripped from the book's spine, the general chapters remain, ever revealing demonic secrets, and the book holds more than blasphemies. Caged behind the lines of script roils a secret piece of the Abyss itself, which the book keeps up to date. Which keeps the book up to date, no matter how many pages are removed, and it longs to be more than mere material reference. 2 minor beneficial, 1 minor detrimental, and 1 major detrimental, so notably worse here. Spells. The book has 8 charges. It regains 8 1d8 expended charges at dawn. While holding it, you can use an action to cast Tasha's Hideous Laughter from it, or expend 1 or more of its charges to cast one of the following spells. Magic Circle, 1 charge. Magic Jar, 3 charges. Planar Ally, 3 charges. Planar Binding, 2 charges. Plane Shift to Layers of the Abyss only, 3 charges. Or Summon Fiend, 3 charges, appears in this book. So it seems like you can cast infinite amounts of Tasha's Hideous Laughter with this, which is really good. I think that makes up for more than what some of these detrimental properties would have you take. Next up, we have Abyssal Reference. You can reference the Demonomicon whenever you make an intelligence check to discern information about demons, or a wisdom survival check related to the Abyss. When you do so, you can add double your proficiency bonus to the check. Fiendish Scourging. Your magic causes pain to fiends. While carrying the book, when you make a damage roll for a spell you cast against a fiend, you use the maximum possible result instead of rolling. Ensnarement. While carrying the book, whenever you cast the Magic Circle spell naming only fiends, or if the Planar Binding spell targeting a fiend, the spell is cast at 9th level, regardless of what spell slot you used, if any. Additionally, the fiend has disadvantage on its saving throw against the spell, so chances are it's not going to be able to make the save. Now, this is an item for an Avernus campaign. There are plenty of fiends littered around Avernus. We also have Containment. The first 10 pages of the Demonomicon are blank, and as an action while holding the book, you can target a fiend that you can see that is trapped within a magic circle. The fiend must succeed on a DC 20 charisma saving throw with disadvantage, or become trapped within one of the Demonomicon's empty pages, which fills with writing detailing the trapped creature's widely known name and depravities. Once used, this cannot be used again until the next dawn. Pretty fair. When you finish a long rest, if you and the Demonomicon are on the same plane of existence, the trapped creature of the highest challenge rating within the book can attempt to possess you. You must make a DC 20 charisma saving throw. On a failure, you are possessed by the creature, which controls you like a puppet. The possessing creature can release you as an action, appearing in the closest unoccupied space. On a successful save, the fiend can't try to possess you again for 7 days. At DC 20, this is so risky. When the tome is discovered, it has 1d4 fiends occupying its pages, typically an assortment of demons. And to destroy the Demonomicon, 6 different demon lords must each tear out a 1/6 of the book's pages. If this occurs, the pages reappear after 24 hours. Before all those hours pass, anyone who opens the book's remaining binding is transported to a nascent layer of the abyss that lies hidden within the book. At the heart of this deadly semi-sentient domain lies a long-lost artifact, Fraz Urblu's staff. If the staff is dragged from the pocket plane, the tome is reduced to mundane and quite out-of-date copy of the Tome of Zix, the work that served as the foundation for the Demonomicon. Once the staff emerges, the demon lord Fraz Urblu instantly knows. Wow, there is a lot to this. I can definitely see this being a key factor in a Avernus campaign, as you do traverse through one of the layers of hell. This could be an item that is adventure-based. I think it would be a really fun addition. Next up, we have Luba's Taroka of Souls. Not all lingering spirits are tragic souls lost on their way to the hereafter. Some languish as prisoners, souls so wicked mortals don't dare free them upon the unsuspecting afterlife. Created by a figure of Vistani legend, Luba's Taroka of Souls shaped the destiny of countless heroes. The prophecies of this deck of cards also revealed great evils and guided its creator into the path of nefarious forces. Untold times, the deck's creator, Mother Luba, narrowly escaped doom, spared only by her keen insights. But even for her, not all wickedness could be escaped. In the most dire cases, Mother Luba managed to ensnare beings of pure evil amid the strands of fate, imprisoning them within her Taroka deck. These foul spirits dwell still, trapped within another realm hidden amid shuffling cards, waiting for fate to turn foul as it inevitably will. Like all Taroka decks, the Taroka of Souls is lavishly illustrated collection of 54 cards, comprising the 14 cards of the high deck and 40 other cards divided into 4 suits: coins, glyphs, stars, and swords. It comes with 2 minor detrimental properties and 2 minor beneficial properties. While holding the deck, you can use an action to cast one of the following spells. Save DC 18 from it. Comprehend languages, detect good and evil, detect magic, detect poison and disease, locate object, and scrying. Once you use the deck to cast a spell, you cannot cast that spell again from it until the next dawn. Enduring vision. While holding the deck, you automatically succeed on con saves made to maintain concentration on divination spells. Very nice. Twist of Fate. As an action, you can draw a card from the deck and twist the fortune of another creature you can see within 15 feet of you. Choose one of the following effects. Wheel. This creature has advantage on attack rolls, ability checks, or saving throws for the next hour. Or Woe. The creature has disadvantage on attack rolls, ability checks, or saving throws for the next hour. The deck can be used this way twice, and you regain all uses at dawn. Really powerful abilities here. Prisoners of Fate. Whenever you use the Twist of Fate property, there is a chance that one of the souls trapped in the deck escapes. Roll a D100 and consult the souls of the Taroka table. If you roll one of the high cards, the soul associated with it escapes. You can find the statistics in the monster manual. If you roll a soul that has already escaped, roll again. So, what can you get out of this? At 1, Flame Skull, 2, Wraith, 3, Banshee, 4, Vampire, Mummy, Death Knight, Ghost, Mummy Lord, another Ghost, another Mummy, another Wraith, a Vampire Spawn, another Vampire, and another Vampire Spawn. These all seem very manageable to kill should one of these escape. Nothing seems too insane here, other than possibly the Vampire. The released soul appears at a random location within 10d10 miles of you and terrorizes the living. Until the released soul is destroyed, it gains the benefits of a wheel from the deck's Twist of Fate property, and both you and the original target of Twist of Fate suffer the effect of woe. So this can backfire on you really hard. Shuffling Fate. If you go 7 days without using the Twist of Fate property, your attunement to Luba's Taroka of Souls ends, and you can't attune to it until after another creature uses Twist of Fate on you. Very interesting. And to destroy the deck, it can only be destroyed if all 14 souls released within it are destroyed. This reveals a 15th soul, a Lich, that inhabits the Nether card, which appears only when the 14 souls are defeated. If this ancient entity is destroyed, the Nether card vanishes and the deck becomes a normal Taroka deck with no special properties, but includes a new card of the DM's design. Now this sounds like a fantastic idea for a certain adventure or a campaign built around this deck, specifically going around killing various undead until you hit the final boss, which is the Lich, to finally make the deck not cursed. This is a great item. I am going to make something out of this 100%. Next up, we have the Mighty Servant of Luca, another artifact acquiring attunement. Named for the warlord who infamously employed it, the Mighty Servant of Luca is a fantastically powerful 10-foot tall machine that turns into an animate construct when piloted. Crafted of a gleaming black alloy of unknown origin, the servant is often described as a combination of disproportioned dwarf and an oversized beetle. The servant contains enough space for 1 ton of cargo and a crew of compartment within, from which up to 2 medium creatures can control it and potentially execute a spree of unstoppable destruction. Tales of the servant's origins involve more conjecture than fact, often referring to otherworldly beings, the mysterious barrier peaks in Orth, and the supposedly related device known as the Machine of Lum the Mad. The best details on the device's origins and operation can be found in the Mind of Metal, a tome of artificer secrets that connects the device to the traditions of the lost Ulman people, and was written by Lum the Mad's several times over granddaughter Lum the Maestro, while she reconstructed the long disassembled Mighty Servant of Luca. So let's start off with the abilities. Dangerous Attunement. 2 creatures can be attuned to the servant at a time. If a 3rd creature tries to attune to it, nothing happens. The servant's controls are accessed by a hatch in its upper back, which is easily opened while there are no creatures attuned to the artifact. Attuning to the artifact requires 2 hours, which can be undertaken as part of a long rest, during which time you must be inside the servant interacting with its controls. While crew members are attuning themselves, any creature or structure outside within 50 feet of the servant has a 25% chance of being accidentally targeted by one of the destructive fist attacks during the attunement. This process must be undergone every time a creature attunes itself to the artifact, so roll a d4 on a 1, probably you'd get attacked, unfortunately. Controlling the servant. While any creatures are attuned to the artifact, attuned creatures can open the hatch as easily as any other door. Other creatures can open the hatch as an action with a successful DC 25 dexterity check using Thieves' Tools. A knock spell cast on the hatch also opens it until the start of the caster's next turn. A creature can enter or exit through the hatch by spending 10 feet of movement. Those inside the servant have total cover from effects originating outside it. The controls will then allow creatures to see outside without obstruction. While you are inside the servant, you can command it by using the controls. During your turn for either attuned creature, you can command it in the following ways: open or close the hatch, no action required, once per turn. Move the servant up to its speed, no action required. As an action, you can command the servant to take one of the actions in its stat block or some other action. When a creature provokes an attack of opportunity from the servant, you can use your reaction to command the servant to make one destructive fist attack against that creature. While there are no attuned creatures inside the servant, it is an inert object. Ghost in the Machine. Upon his death, the soul of the mighty warlord Luca was drawn into the artifact and has become its animating force. The servant has been known to attack or move of its own accord, particularly if doing so will cause destruction. Once every 24 hours, the servant, at the DM's discretion, takes 1 action while uncrewed. If the servant loses half of its hit points or more, each creature attuned to it must succeed on a DC 20 Wisdom saving throw or be charmed for 24 hours. While charmed in this way, the creature goes on a destructive spree, seeking to destroy structures and attack any unattuned creatures while within sight of the servant, starting with those threatening the artifact, preferably using the servant if possible. Self-destruct. By inputting a specific series of levers and button presses, the servant's 2 crew members can cause it to explode. The self-destruct code is not revealed to the crew members when they attune to the artifact. If the code is discovered, the DM determines how. It requires 2 attuned crew members to be inside the servant and spend their actions on 3 consecutive rounds performing the command. Should the crew members begin the process of entering the code, though, the servant uses its Ghost in the Machine property and turns the crew members against each other. If the crew members successfully implement the code at the end of the 3rd round, the servant explodes. Every creature in a 100-foot radius sphere centered around the servant must make a DC 25 dex save. On a failed save, the creature takes 87 or 25d6 force damage, 25d6 lightning damage, and 25d6 thunder damage. On a successful save, a creature takes half as much damage. Objects and structures in the area take triple damage. Creatures inside the servant are slain instantly and leave behind no remains. This does not destroy the servant permanently. Rather, 2d6 days later, its parts, left arm, left leg, right arm, right leg, lower torso, and upper torso, drop from the sky in random places within 1,000 miles of the explosion. If brought within 5 feet of one another, the pieces reconnect and reform the servant. This is how you introduce this item. You take all the parts of this and you plant one down in front of the party, and there will just be a massive crater somewhere with an explosion, and then the party's gonna wonder what caused this. They connect all the parts, they reform the servant, and chaos ensues. This is amazing. Destroying the servant. The servant can be destroyed in 2 ways. After it is self-destructed, its disconnected pieces can be melted down in one of the forged temples of its ancient Ulman creators. Alternatively, if the servant strikes the machine of Lum the Mad, both artifacts explode in an eruption that is 3 times the size and 3 times the damage of the self-destruct property, essentially probably killing your entire party and the entire surrounding region. So here is the stat block. Let's run through this. Has an AC of 22. Well, first off, it's a huge construct. An AC of 22, 310 hit points, a movement speed of 60 feet, 30 strength with a decent stat line everywhere else except for the 1 intelligence. Saving throws +9 to wisdom and +7 to charisma. Perception +9. Resistant to piercing and slashing damage. Immune to ascening, bludgeoning, cold, fire, lightning, necrotic, poison, psychic, and radiant damage. It is immune to all conditions but invisible and prone. It has blind sight of 120 feet, a passive perception of 19. It understands the languages of the creatures attuned to it but cannot speak, and has a +7 proficiency bonus. Immutable existence. The servant is immune to any spell or effect that would alter its form or send it to another plane of existence. So you can't just send this to the elemental plane of fire and be done with it. Magic resistant construction. The servant has advantage on saving throws made against spells and other magical effects, and spell attacks made against it have disadvantage. Regeneration. The servant regains 10 hit points at the start of each of its turns. If it is reduced to 0 hit points, this trait doesn't function until an attuned creature spends 24 hours repairing the artifact or until the artifact is subjected to lightning damage. Standing leap. The servant's long jump is up to 50 feet and its high jump is 25 feet with or without a running start. Unusual nature. The servant does require air, food, or drink, or sleep. Pretty obvious there. For its actions, Destructive Fist. Melee or ranged weapon attack plus 17 to hit, 10 foot or 120 foot range. Deals 36 or 4d12 plus 10 force damage. If the target is an object, it takes triple damage. Crushing Leap. If the servant jumps at least 25 feet as part of its movement, it can then use its action to land on its feet in a space that contains 1 or more creatures. Each of those creatures is pushed to an unoccupied space within 5 feet of the servant and must make a DC 25 dex save. On a failed save, a creature takes 26 4d12 bludgeoning damage and is knocked prone. On a successful save, a creature takes half as much damage and isn't knocked prone. Very extremely strong creature here of a machine. You can deal some serious havoc with this, or you can get a TPK. Your choice. But that is everything for this artifact. Finally, we have the Teeth of Dalvarnar, another artifact requiring attunement. The Teeth of Dalvarnar are stories given form. They are a collection of teeth, each suggestive of wildly different origins made from various materials. The collection rests within a leather pouch stitched with images of heroes and whimsical creatures. Where the teeth fall, they bring legends to life. Using the teeth. While you are holding the pouch, you can use an action to draw one tooth. Roll on the Teeth of Dalvarnar to determine which tooth you draw, and you can either sew the tooth or implant it, both of which are described later. If you don't sew or implant the tooth, roll a die at the end of your turn. On an even number, the tooth vanishes and creatures appear as if you sewed the tooth, but they are hostile to you and your allies. On an odd number, the tooth replaces one of your teeth as if you implanted it, potentially replacing another implanted tooth, see below. Each tooth can only be used once. Track which teeth you have been used. If a tooth's result is rolled after it's been used, you draw the next lowest unused tooth on the table. Sewing teeth. To sew the tooth, you place it on the ground in an unoccupied space within your reach, or you throw it into an unoccupied space within 10 feet of you in a body of water that is at least 50 feet wide and 50 feet long. Upon doing so, the tooth burrows into the ground and vanishes, leaving no hole behind, or it vanishes into the water. The creatures noted in the creatures summoned column appear in an unoccupied space as close to where the tooth was sewn as possible. The creatures are allies to you, speak all languages you speak, and linger for 10 minutes before disappearing unless otherwise noted. Implanting teeth. To implant the tooth, you place it in your mouth whereupon one of your own teeth falls out and the drawn tooth takes its place, resizing to fit your mouth. Once the tooth is implanted, you gain the effect noted in the implanted column. The tooth can't be removed while you are attuned to the teeth, and you can't voluntarily end your attunement to them. If removed after death, the tooth vanishes. You can have a maximum number of teeth implanted at one time equal to 1 plus your con modifier, minimum of 2 total. If you try to implant more teeth, the newly implanted tooth replaces one of the previous teeth determined randomly. The replaced tooth vanishes and you lose the implanted effect. Recovering the teeth. Once all the teeth have vanished, the pouch also vanishes. The pouch with all the teeth then appears at a random destination, which could be on a different world of the material plane. Destroying the teeth. Each tooth must be destroyed individually by sewing it in the area where the tooth's story originated with the intention to destroy it. When planted in this way, creatures summoned are not friendly to you and do not vanish. Some of the creatures summoned merely head off in search of home, while others act as their tails dictate. In either case, the tooth is gone forever. So here is the table of teeth. On a 1, you get the Staring Cats of Uldendar, Ivory Cat Molar. Creatures summoned, 9 cats, listed here. When implanted, the tooth has 8 charges. As an action, you can expend 1 charge to cast Revivify. If you are dead at the start of your turn, the tooth expends 1 charge and casts Revivify on you. A self-revive 9 times on a 1. This is nuts. Just on this ability alone, let's see what else we have. On a 2, you get Douglas Surprising Day, Human Molar. When implanted, whenever you finish a long rest, the tooth casts Sanctuary DC 18 on you, and the spell lasts for 24 hours or until you break it. On a 3, you get the Golden Age of Dakan, Golden Goblin Bicuspid. Summons 10 goblins and 1 goblin boss. When implanted, when you are hit with an attack and an ally is within 5 feet of you, you can use your reaction to cause them to be hit instead. You can't use this reaction again until you finish a short or long rest. This is hilarious. 4, we have the Mill Road Murders, Halfling Canine. 3 green hags and a coven get summoned. When implanted, when you damage a target that hasn't taken a turn in this combat, the target takes an extra 3d10 slashing damage from ghostly blades, so it pays to have a high initiative count with this. For 5, we have Dooms of Malfegi, Emerald Lizardfolk Fang, summons 1 Lizardfolk Queen and 4 Lizardfolk. When implanted, you gain Reptilian Scales, granting you +2 bonus to your AC. Additionally, when you finish a long rest, you must succeed on a DC 15 con save or gain 1 level of exhaustion. Way too risky. Do not take this one. Next up, we have the Stable Hand Secret. Sweet Tasting Human Canine summons 2 incubi, and when implanted and you make a charisma check against a humanoid, you can roll a d10 and add the number rolled as a bonus to the result. The creature then becomes hostile to you at the next dawn. Have a lot of enemies at the end of your campaign. 7, we have the Donkey's Dream. Rainbow Colored Monkey Molar summons 1 unicorn. When implanted, the tooth has 3 charges. As an action, you can expend 1 charge to touch a creature. The creature regains 2d8 +2 hit points, and all diseases and poisons affecting it are removed. When you use this action, a shimmering image of a unicorn's horn appears until the end of your turn, sprouting from your forehead. The tooth regains all expended uses at dawn. You gain the following flaw: when I see wickedness in action, I must oppose it. Take that how you will. Next up, we have Beyond the Rock of Brawl, a silver Mind Flayer tooth, summoning 2 Mind Flayers. You gain telepathy out to 120 feet as described in the monster manual, and you can cast Detect Thoughts at will, requiring no components. You also have disadvantage on Wisdom Insight checks and Wisdom Perception checks from constant whispers and memories of nearby minds. At 9, you get the disappearances of Half Hollow, Vomirin, Tooth of a Large Toad, summoning 4 giant toads. Your long jump is up to 30 feet and your high jump is up to 15 feet with or without a running start. Pretty nice. Next up, we have Legendary of Phantoms and Ghosts, Obsidian Human Molar, summoning 1 giant octopus and 1 mage and 1 specter. As an action, you can use the tooth to cast Evard's Black Tentacles, DC 18. and you cannot do this again until the next dawn. At 11, we have the 1,000 Deaths of Jander Sunstar, Yellowed Vampire Fang, summons 1 vampire. You can make a bite attack as an unarmed strike. On a hit, it deals 1d6 piercing plus 3d6 necrotic. You regain a number of hit points equal to the necrotic damage. While you are in sunlight, you can't regain hit points. Very interesting. 12, we have Nightmares of Kagash, Twisted Beholder Tooth. It summons 1 Beholder. As an action, you can cast the Eye Bite spell from the tooth. Once you use this action, you cannot be used again until the next dawn. Whenever you finish a long rest, roll a d20. On a 20, an aberration chosen by the DM appears within 30 feet of you and attacks. Horribly scary with this one. Next up, we have the 3 Bridges of the Sky, Lapis Lazuli Oni Fang, summoning 3 Oni. You gain a flying speed of 30 feet, and you can use the tooth to cast the Detect Magic spell at will. While you are attuned to fewer than 3 magic items, you gain 1 level of exhaustion that cannot be removed until you are attuned to 3 or more magic items. So it makes you a covetous PC. Next up, we have the Claws of Dragotha, Broken Translucent Fang, summons 1 adult red Dracolich. You can use the tooth to cast Create Undead spell. You can only do this once per dawn. Each time you create an undead creature using the tooth, a skeleton, zombie, or ghoul also appears at a random location within 5 miles of you, searching for the living to kill. A humanoid killed by these undead rises as the same type of undead at the next midnight. So you can create your own personal zombie apocalypse. Very chaotic. Next up, we have Ashes of the Ages of Eternal Fire, Jade Humanoid Bicuspid, summons 1 Dao, 1 Jinni, 1 Afridi, and 1 Merid. You can use the tooth to cast Counterspell at 9th level. When you do so, it cannot be used again until the next dawn. Whenever you finish a long rest, if you haven't used the tooth to counterspell since your last long rest, your hit point maximum is reduced by 2d10. If this reduces your hit point to maximum to 0, you die. This is another really fun one. I'm already enjoying this. Next up, we have the Daughters of Bel, Green Steel Pit Fiend Fang, summoning 1 Pit Fiend, which for some reason pops up as Ancient Blue Dragon. Oh, there it is. You can use the tooth to cast Dominate Monster, DC 18. Once you use this property, you cannot do so again until the next dawn. You smell strongly of burning sulfur. That's disgusting. 17, Why the Sky Screams, Blue Dragon Fang, summoning 1 Ancient Blue Dragon. You gain immunity to lightning damage and invulnerable to thunder damage. 18, The Last Tarrasque, Jagged Sliver of Tarrasque Tooth, summons 1 Tarrasque, ignores you and your commands, appears for 1d4 rounds, then vanishes. This is such a troll ability. You deal double damage to objects and structures. If you take 20 or more damage in 1 turn, you must succeed on a DC 18 Wisdom saving throw or spend your next turn in a Murderous Fury. During this rage, you must use your action to make an unarmed strike against a creature that damaged you, or a random creature that you can see if you weren't damaged by a creature, moving as close as you can to the target if necessary. This Tarrasque summoning one is going to make for some amazing stories. Next up, we have Incendax's Tooth, a ruby-veined red dragon fang, summoning 1 Ancient Red Dragon. You gain immunity to fire damage, and as an action, you can exhale fire in a 90-foot cone. Each creature in that area must make a DC 24 dexterity saving throw, taking 26 d6 fire damage on a failed save, or half as much damage on a successful one. After using the breath weapon, you gain 2 levels of exhaustion. So this is a very powerful glass cannon ability. Let's see what the last one is. 20, Dalvarnar's Tooth, summoning 1 priest. As an action, you can call on a divine force to come to your aid, describe the assistance you seek, and the DM decides the nature of the intervention. If the effect of any cleric spell would be appropriate. Once this property is used, it cannot be used again for 7 days. So it is essentially divine intervention, the cleric ability that you have to roll super lucky on to get, but you just get it automatically as on a 20 on the die. So those are all of the artifacts introduced in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. Completely campaign breaking artifacts, magic items, campaign oriented or adventure oriented. You can make so many stories out of all of these items. I am excited to try all of these out in my campaigns. But guys, that is going to do it for the magic item review of Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. If you guys enjoyed this review and enjoyed this video, be sure to leave it a like. Leave me your thoughts down below on what you think of all these items, and let me know how you are going to use these, because I know you guys are going to have some as good of stories as I will. But if you haven't already, consider subscribing. We got more Tasha's Cauldron of Everything videos coming up soon, so don't miss a single one of those. But until next time, have fun, stay safe, and as always, happy gaming.